Hey, Emily. How are you doing, girl? So, let's see. Today is the 7th of September, 2018. And the time is 6 o'clock. Good afternoon. Or good evening, I should say, I suppose. So it has arrived. My photographing equipment has arrived and everything looks pretty good. I'm still testing out the sound a little bit. Not quite sure how it's going to work out on this recording, but I've got the camera, I've got the sound, I've got the background, I've got the lighting. It's all coming together. It's all coming together. Piece by piece by piece. And guess what? I'm experimenting with a little hair color gel today. What do you think about that? I got some hair coloring, temporary hair coloring, that I can wear, say, at music and art festivals, and also when I go trick-or-treating during Halloween, this coming Halloween. So I'm getting excited. I'm pulling together my outfit. I've got a hat and I've got a bag. I'm going to put together a shirt and some pants and maybe some shoes. And then with a little bit of hair coloring, I think I might just have the perfect festive costume for 2018 Halloween. We'll see how it goes. We'll see. I'm actually still a long way toward completion. And, that's fine because it's only the 7th of September. I still have about a good month and a half to pull something together. And I have yet to go to the Spirit Halloween store here in Lompoc. So I plan to go there eventually, soon perhaps, to get some ideas about how I could dress up as one of Robin Hood's merry men. So we'll see how that goes. And I must say that I am contemplating buying some green tights. Oh, I probably shouldn't have said that out loud. Maybe not. Maybe I'll get some forest dweller pants. I don't know. Maybe I'll make my own. These are ideas that are just sort of tumbling around in my mind. I don't quite have my ideas fixed. So I'm still in troubleshooting mode or in brainstorming mode. So how do you like this hair color? Pretty nifty, huh? So this is what I'm going to look like when I gray out as I grow older. Fascinating. Yeah, I'll have to take a look more closely in the mirror later on so that I can sort of breathe in what the future holds for me. I was thinking about how neat it would be for me to grow a beard and a mustache and also dye that gray. That would be super interesting. I might do that just during December. I could make an interesting Santa Claus. It's kind of neat. Dressing and costume and fashion are really interesting because they are infinitely variable. They're so open to tweaking and variation and change that it's as entertaining for me to present and express myself artistically as it is for observers to watch me do it. It might even be more interesting for me to experiment the way I am with dress and costume. More interesting to me than it is to others. Isn't that interesting? I wouldn't be surprised. It's another warm day in California, so if I begin to sweat bullets, you'll know why. If it starts raining indoors and the humidity starts going to 100, 110, 120%, you'll know what's going on. It's a little warm in here. It's September in Lompoc here in California on the Central Coast. This is about the time it starts to get warm. And indeed, it is getting somewhat warm. This is kind of a cooler year than I remember in years past. And by the way, there's no such thing as a relative humidity above 100%. Okay, as a physicist, I have to correct myself on occasion. It was a joke. It was a joke. There's no such thing as 110% humidity. Yeah, I know. I was exaggerating for emotional effect. Yeah. So, okay. So, let's see what's going on today. So, the first item on our agenda is, of course, Peaceful Living, the calendar book by Mary Mackenzie. Daily Meditations for Living with Love, Healing, and Compassion is the subtitle. I received this as a gift from Jolie. Thank you very much, Jolie. Okay, so September 7th. This is the quote. We must always change, renew, rejuvenate ourselves, otherwise we harden. By Goethe. Okay, or at least that's the way I say his name. So I'll say it again. The quote is, we must always change, renew, rejuvenate ourselves. Otherwise, we harden. Yeah, I think that's really true. We must always change. As human beings, our environment changes daily. In fact, I don't think I've ever had 2 days that were the same. Every day is different. I'm meeting up with different people, going to different places. I'm thinking about different subjects. In fact, every moment is different from the next. And in fact, I have a hard time sort of planning for the future because it's so changing. There's so much going on, and quite often I don't know what's going to happen. And really, I'm surprised by what happens when it does. So, let me tell you. By the way, that 110% humidity is powering forward here today in California in my apartment. I opened a window. So, anyway, this shine, that glistening shine, that's just healthy skin, okay? So, all right, let's move forward and see what Mary Mackenzie has to say about this quote from Goethe. Her subtitle is Change Happens. I used to think that people were supposed to feel and show little emotion. So I set out to be even, as I put it. I thought the best way to achieve this was to be stable, which to me means to stagnate. I felt joy about things only for a short while. Then I wondered if I would ever be happy, and if I was just difficult to please. It never occurred to me that trying new things and discovering what I enjoyed or didn't enjoy was part of experiencing life. Indeed, to stagnate is to limit life. Life is change. Thank goodness for that. Try new things and enjoy them. Notice which needs you meet with each activity and which you do not. Stay connected to your life in ways that meet your needs. Be willing to adopt strategies that best serve you, and you will find more joy and interest in life. It is inevitable, says Mary Mackenzie. So her ending aphorism is, be open to changing your strategies to best serve your needs today. Yes. That is indeed quite accurate. Be open to changing your strategies to best serve your needs today. Yep. Yeah. You know, Mary brings up a really good question, and that is what ought to be the sort of your emotional attitude most of the time during the day. She evidently thought that being mild and moderate throughout the day was perhaps not the greatest choice in terms of attitude. I'm not sure I have a really good solution to this or answer to this question, but I do have a few ideas. two attitudes that I try to emphasize in my life are peace and enjoyment. If you can sort of continuously experience peace during your day, throughout your whole day, that is not a bad thing. There is no fault in that. In fact, that's quite an honorable and virtuous state to be in. And it's something that one can accomplish. And I think that meditators all over the world, people who practice Buddhism, I think they are good examples of people who try to practice an attitude of being peaceful. So I think that is a fine way to go. Others might say that trying to foster an attitude of happiness throughout the day is a good idea. And I think it is a fine idea if you can achieve it. The thing about happiness is that it is more of a stimulated, higher energy state. And to ask for a person to stay in a high energy state throughout the day, that is, exhibit and express an attitude of happiness throughout the day, that sounds like too much to ask. Too much to ask. So, I think it might be better to have, happiness in sort of in moments throughout the day. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, enjoyment. Now, the reason I like enjoyment as an attitude is that you can enjoy something and be quiet and at peace. And enjoyment can also mean having periods of intense joy and satisfaction. I like enjoyment as a word and as an attitude to continually express throughout one's life. Because, it wraps up all the good things. And it's not what I'd call an excited state. It's not an energetic state. You can be quite peaceable and enjoy and be in an enjoying state at the same time. And you can do it throughout your day. And you also, as a person who is enjoying things, you can boy, I think I just lost my thought there. I was focusing on changes in lighting. Sorry. But, I think enjoyment is a very useful attitude to cultivate. So, I would suggest you do that. Give it a try. And if it doesn't quite work out, then, move into any other state that you find works for that moment. Oh, I was going to say that enjoyment, I lost that idea again. What was I going to say about enjoyment? Oh, boy. One of the things I really enjoy about myself and the way that I express myself is that I have an ability to entertain myself as I go along throughout my day. This sort of ability to be self-satisfied and to self-entertain, I think, is a valuable skill and is very useful. Helps keep life a little bit lighter than it could be. All right, so peaceful living, done. Now, I got my clipboard. More subjects to talk about today. All right, so here's a point that I wanted to make, and that is comprehend the full range of choices available to you. Okay, so this is a big deal. So you have choice. You have freedom. You have autonomy. You can decide to act one way or another. For example, I just decided to move my hand from this side to this side to this side and down. It was a choice I made. Now, to some extent, it was automatized, right? I've probably made that action 10,000 times before. And there was some point in which I first decided to do it before it was automatized. And I did it on purpose. Though, really, almost everything is a choice. And it's hard to sort of comprehend the magnitude of that statement, because we get so wrapped up quite often in our lives. We get so wrapped up in our thinking process, in the habitual patterns of our thinking, of our movement and our thoughts, our emotions. We get so wrapped up in how, and I think to some extent we think that it might be the only way to approach a situation. Say, the meaning that we give a situation, I think we imagine it is more fixed than it really is. Yeah, I think we too also imagine that we have to do things or need to do things more than we really need to do them. Sometimes I think sometimes I imagine when I wake up in the morning just not leaving the bed, right? The choice whether to get up in the morning and get ready for work or to get ready for play is a conscious choice. It is a decision. And I think a lot of us take it for granted, how important that choice is. There's always a choice. I am free to choose however I want to choose my behavior and the perspective that I take on any certain external event. Here's an example. Spiders. There are a lot of people who are afraid of spiders. And there are also a lot of people who aren't. If you take 100 people and you show them a spider, of that 100 people, there will be a small subset that would be moderately afraid. And a smaller subset of that subset, or another subset that would be very afraid. And what makes a person afraid of a spider? Well, it has to do with the meaning, right? That one's, when you create a thought, when you generate it, there's an intention behind it. Sometimes, but not always. There's an intention behind it, and then you fix that meaning on the spider, right? It's part of your external environment, and you overlay that thought or that meaning on top of the neutral environment. Nature is neutral, after all. And so, the choice that you give to objects in your external environment are your choice. It is completely your choice. Now, you might think that, oh, wow, I could be afraid of, death is fear-inspiring, or death is scary. Well, not really. It depends on the culture you're raised in and the attitudes in your culture, the mores, the norms. And, it's really about the meaning that you give to death. In fact, the same is true for everything. So, it's very important to keep that in mind. When you have a thought that is causing you excessive emotional pain, the fact is that, in a way, you're creating your own pain because maybe you were compelled by, say, cultural traditions to sort of assign meaning to that event in your life. But you ultimately did do that by an act of choice. An act of choice is a mental act, and the mental act requires volition. And so, anyway, maybe I beat that one to death, but there's a full range of choices available to you. So, if you have the power to give meaning to anything in your external environment by choice, then really you have the ultimate control over your life. The ultimate control. If you wanted to feel love, you could do that if you were sufficiently motivated. What it would mean would be that love and gratitude and appreciation would just be words and meaning that you would cast onto everything in your external environment. Somehow you'd imagine a perspective where love and appreciation and gratitude would be just the main components of that perspective. the main emphasis, the main energy, and that those would be the meanings that you would recall the next time you looked at that very same external event. So, you could do it. Everything in your world could be love and gratitude. There are inhibits against that, though. A lot of them are cultural norms. A lot of them is just, a lot of what we think about the world is just tradition that's been passed down through the generations. We learn from our fathers who learn from their fathers, who learn from their fathers, and their forefathers, and so on. It's part of our cultural identity. It's also part of our individual identity. There's just been so much conditioning of my nervous system over the years, over the 47 years of my life, that it wouldn't necessarily be easy to change the meaning of my external environment in its entirety. I can, however, change the meaning of events or actions or things that are particularly bothering me. It takes an act of will. It's about reinterpretation. It's about reorienting. It's about, it's about an adjustment in perspective. Now, it's not always the hardest. I might be explaining to it as being an over hard thing to do. It is actually quite challenging, but it can also be quite easy. All it takes is one thing, and that is a decision. Somehow you have to decide, and in order to make a decision about, and when you decide about that something's going to have a certain meaning, you're also deciding that, from here into the future, this is the meaning I'm going to give it. It's almost like abandoning the old meaning. You have to abandon the old meaning. And there will be plenty of ties in your parallel processing brain that will sort of remind you of the old meaning, and you'll just have to reshape and redecide every time to sort of create and maintain that new meaning for the event. So it does take some energy to do it, and it is only like I mentioned, just a matter of a person's decision, and it taking energy. Well, first of all, it takes some creativity to come up with a different perspective. So it takes a few things. There's a commitment to the new perspective. There's coming up with a perspective that's consistent, right? Because you want a perspective that honors what's factual and what's true, right? It is possible to come up with a perspective that sort of flies in the face of everything you know. But all those contradictions will be problematic, let me tell you, down the road. So yeah, coming up with a new interpretation might take some time. You'll want to come up with an interpretation in a non-contradictory way, or at least an obviously non-contradictory way. Okay. All right. Well, I'm really getting carried away by this one subject. I still haven't really talked about the meat of it, though. Comprehending the full range of choices available to you. Okay, so how many choices are available to you? Well, just as many as many perspectives there are regarding the world and events in the world. Well, how many perspectives are there? Well, there's an infinite number. So, can we comprehend the full range of choices available to me? Well, there is at least an infinite number of choices. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, how you move your body, how you think your thoughts, the attitudes you choose to express. There are an infinite number of choices. So many choices. You don't believe me that there's a lot of choices. There are. At this moment, I could pick up and become an auto mechanic. 100%. Also, I could use my savings. I could fly to India and become a yogi priest or a yogi, right? Or I could also join some extremist group and produce violence if I wanted to. You know, all of these ideas, all of these actions or choices are within my power. I could also be completely self-destructive. And a lot of people have made that choice through substance use and other problems, right? You know, they're all making choices about what they want to do with their lives. And at any moment, I could make a choice like that. Now, I don't care to make choices that are self-destructive. In fact, you know, I basically have made commitments to myself about ensuring that all my choices are consistent with my long-term self-interest. You know, these are commitments that I've made to myself that are firm, and that I've held to I've held to these commitments for years and years and years. And you know, part of those following through with those commitments is being active, being creative, always learning, being grateful. You know, these are all choices in the moment I make every moment of my life. And you know, they have built an identity, you know, a personality. My brain has curated a number of ideas that help me sustain this persona, this personality, and it's rather fixed, right? I've been doing it for a long, long time. Now, I could make a different choice. Absolutely. I want people to comprehend the full range of choices available to them. I could. And the reason I don't is because I haven't found any better way to preserve my long-term self-interest. I just haven't found any better way. Eventually, I might come across new information that would help, that would maybe drive me to make different choices. That hasn't happened yet. And so, you know, as an adult who's lived as long as I have, you know, I've become a lot more comfortable over time about the choices that I've made. You know, I've found those choices to be enjoyable and consistent with what I want. And, you know, so I don't make any different choices. So anyway, everyone has the ability to make changes in their life at any time, at the spur of the moment. I just wanted to let you know that comprehending that is really part of being human. You know, it's basically comprehending what it is to be a human. Having this amazing autonomy. You know, it's almost awe-inspiring how autonomous human beings are. You know, you can decide to be president of the United States if you wanted, or you could be Surgeon General of the United States or of the world. You know, really, these are all choices. I could become a race car driver or an animator with Pixar and Disney. You know, we all have this incredible freedom. The fact is, it's also an existential state of our reality. It's just a physical, I mean, it's a philosophical truism about the human mind. Now, what's kind of funny, tomorrow I'm going to talk about determinism and how everything is fixed in this clockwork world, in this clockwork universe. You might think that that's a contradiction. But anyway, right now, what I want to do is just emphasize human choice and how wondrous and awe-inspiring it is. Even though it's not precisely true. Okay. All right. Well, anyway, my dear daughter, Emily, I just want to thank you for going along with me on this journey. And I hope you have a wonderful day. And I want you to know that I love you sincerely. I earnestly love you. And I hope that you are having a wonderful day. And I want you to know that I love you just the way you are. And there is no need to change for me. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.